And good afternoon to you, internet citizens. Hopefully, you're doing well. And this Friday, the Friday before Labor Day, has been good to you. And I really hope you have a 3-day weekend coming up. Maybe you have a 4-day weekend. You decide to optimize your days off and get a Friday off instead. But anyway, um, welcome to the stream and glad to have you here, whether you are here live or watching this recorded on YouTube. I greatly appreciate you watching. And we are going to continue our adventure on our Elixir package. So this is technically part 8 of our ongoing series of development, trying to develop this Elixir package 1 hour at a time. Last Friday. Let's get some background tunes going. So, last Friday had successfully deployed the kind of like preview of our thin Notion wrapper right here. We still haven't completely written all the documentation. Looks like 7 people have installed it, but we have yet to actually give a full featured documentation on here. We successfully deployed it, but how the heck do you use it? There is something that is sorely missing in our documentation, in our setup guide for this, and that is how to configure this so that you add the credentials to your application. Yikes. So I need to go in and update the documentation. I just realized I'm not showing my screen. Let me show this again. So here is our Notion API right on the Hex. It looks like there's been 7 downloads, but I'm pretty sure when people downloaded it, they weren't able to use it because there is some how do you add the secret key and configurations that's missing in this documentation. So what I need to do is I need to update this documentation right here, this readme, to give the instructions to configure it for your application. So that is what is sorely needed for our little package here to be successful. So let's figure out how we're going to document that. First, let's go into how you configure this application. So this application is configured via a system variables. So it is specifically looking for env variables on your system to load in for the Notion API, and that what needs to be explicitly called out in the documentation. I am right now 100% not sure how we're going to call this out. Maybe there's a certain convention to follow for Elixir packages in terms of like documenting how to provide environment variables in the README and the documentation. So the best way to know how to do something or do something consistently is let's look at other documentations for other API libraries. So let's look at Twitter. Let's see if there's any kind of like Twitter libraries that has anything documented on how they should go about configuring things. So this is just regular old Twitter API stuff. Access token. So nothing screams out here. So we're just going to poke around and just look at different. Actually, let's see what's popular. These are just all generic stuff. let's see with Twitch. Page not found for the TMI library. Let's go to the GitHub page. So this is about configuring so over here they configure a supervisor to do stuff, and that makes sense because for something like TMI.js, which is connected to the chat, you will need to it's a running process in a separate thing. So you need to configure your environment variables in a separate way. So nothing here. Nothing documented here. I am going to go ahead and skip songs because I am distracted. Yeah, that hotkey didn't work. Okay. All right. The Twitch ones are too small. A7. How's it going? Bitcoin. What's cracking? Nothing much. What's crack-a-lacking with you, my friend? Hopefully you have a good week. Right now, we're just looking at documentation to get inspiration for how we can document setting environment variables. So our environment variables are set up the same way. So installation, add, just like with our configuration here, consumer key to the config exs and do this. Okay. So it's just a straight call out of what we can do. So in our installation section here, let's go ahead and add that in. I'm gonna move this to do section to be lower because that's more of a development note. So let's put that under development progress. And so this would be a code block. So let's wrap that in a nice backtick code block. Let's identify that this is going to be Elixir. Playing with Phoenix 1.6, isn't there an equivalent to .env for Elixir that gets pulled in on compile time? So there isn't. That's the config file. So Elixir doesn't really rely on, and this is from my experience, doesn't really rely on .env files. Instead, it's this config exs file that gets pulled in on well, config exs actually gets configured on runtime, gets pulled in on runtime. So that's the way I had designed this package to do that, is it pulls in these configuration variables on runtime, which is a very common thing. And I mean, if you look at the generated, if you generated your Phoenix project and open up the config folder with the different configurations per environment, you would see the same thing, at least config specifying something. So our config is Notion. And then our two keys are those. but you need to make sure not to commit those files to GitHub, for example. So those files, so this is, I can show, well, you don't put, either way, you don't put your secrets in those files. What those files end up doing, it depends on the style you build a project, but those files can just pull in system variables. So that's what I have for my current project that's in production. So I in my prod for my EXS file, so this is the standard prod EXS file, but then I have this releases EXS file that goes and sets the configs and pulls everything from system environment variables. And this is, I find, the most foolproof, the most foolproof, the most safe, the most environment agnostic way to do things. Instead of trying to like not commit a file and then passing around that file, this is the most foolproof, system friendly, regardless of what system you're running, whether it's in Docker or not. It just pulls from the environment variables, and you can easily update environment variables in your system, and then just restart the application to fetch the new environment variables to apply them. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and copy like that. I'm going to show the system way to do it because that, I feel like that's a better practice to follow. Let's look at our little package again. Thin's not enough. Are you looking, do you get a 3-day weekend this weekend, 7? I want to try to add the little tiny tag thingies. Is that possible? I forget how to like denote the little taggy things. I'm gonna log in just to see what it says. Yes, sir. I'll be spending the weekend doing side projects. Well, as long so doing that is great, as long as you take enjoyment doing those things. That's the important part of it all. Okay. Just got a delivery at the front door, so I was looking at my watch real quick. All right, well, I won't. We'll figure out about the stamp. I forget exactly where we get the stamp things at again, but we'll figure it out later. Okay, so that's all they called out. I guess we should call out usage too. So let's call out the usage on this. Usage. I guess for the usage, I can actually directly lift off of the documentation. So we have this one for database right here. So I can actually pull this directly, which is great. So directly, let me 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Retrieve information about a Ocean database. How's that look? It's all indented in, which makes sense because so I'll have to just shift all of this over some and say that's Elixir syntax. I guess we can abbreviate all the contents of this. Then the content of this isn't important. So that's fetching a database. Let's grab the page one. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. Whoops. I'm looking forward to the 3-day weekend. Don't have anything planned. We're probably gonna do some DIY stuff around the house. We just got delivered like these hedge panels that we're going to use to kind of like beautify some of the fence lining and stuff like that. So probably be doing a little bit of that. And next Friday is actually going to be my birthday. So not sure what I'm going to be doing about that yet. Birthday. Hey, hey. Okay, so we're just I'm just copy and pasting the different things. Let's denote that this is Elixir. And I think this is what we'll just kind of cap the documentations. I think maybe we can directly link to the copy. So let's see, if I copy link address here and paste this in. So we have database and we have pages so far. We haven't. Find all functions, find all modules and functions you can use in the API reference section. let's go ahead and wrap that in that and link to that section. More functions. Yeah, we'll just leave it like that. Because I have the call out that this is currently still under development. This package is still under heavily development. Things that can change at any time. Let's do that. And let's go ahead and I guess let's take a little preview here. Okay. So git add -p. Let's update that documentation. Is it complaining? Let's do that. So it's complaining about the extra white space. Update read me docs to include more install better install info and usage. Let's go ahead and push that up. Okay, so we updated the docs. We don't need to, and I would like to be able to just deploy the documentation and not deploy a new version. So there is, based off what I've read, it is possible to tell it to just release the documentation only. And let's find out how to do that. So publishing packages, and there's a couple commands. So there's two commands. There's the hex publish. So here we go. So this is the thing I think is really cool. And if this works. So documentation is automatically published to hexdocs.pm when you publish your package. If you only want to publish the package itself, you say mix hex publish package. Similarly, if you want to republish documentation for an existing package version, you can run hex mix hex dot publish docs. By running mix docs, and to make sure you're up to date, the main. Okay, so let's try publishing just the docs. Whoops. There we go. Hey, the docs. There they are. That's okay. That's really cool. I really like that about Hex and Hex docs, because if you have any experience with publishing a npm package, you can't just publish the docs for npm packages. It pulls in the README, which is tied to the source. So if you screw up the documentation, at least before, I'm not sure about now, but if you screwed up the documentation, stuff like that, you would have to do another release in order to update the docs, just the docs. But this lets me just deploy the documentation completely separately. So if I want to make more, if I release a package, I'm like, oh wait, I screwed up the docs, which technically we did. I can go update the README or whatever other docs, like specifically the README, because that's all we're changing, the README. We didn't change any of the modules. We can update the module headers, the doc headers and stuff like that, and then republish. We can even go a little bit further and make this a little bit more detailed about where to get the Notion API keys and stuff like that. Oh, looks like we did screw up because we forgot to name this. Add your app customer's key, customer secret. Yeah, looks like we already screwed up the documentation. I was so excited about deploying, I wasn't paying attention. So we need a so the API key. Notion version. So let's actually, since that was actually successful, let's make our documentation a little bit more robust then and be a little bit more detailed about our setup. So installation, next, you should log into your next, log into your Notion. Let me do a little secret. Okay, that's fine. Notion account. Log into the Notion developers portal. I guess it's a called site. Visit my integrations. And create a quote new integration. After creating your integration. So let me hide my screen because I'm going to click on one of these. Yeah. After creating your integration, you should now have a internal integration token you will use for your Notion for all your Notion API requests. Make sure to keep this secret private and never leak it. Because at the moment you cannot regenerate a new one if compromised, which sucks. You can't, like, there's nowhere in here to generate a new token if it's compromised. So if I accidentally show this secret here and I'm actually using this in production, I can't reuse it. Sucks. Yeah, be careful. Yes, yes. And the reason why that extra sucks too is because for these, at least for internal integration, you give, I'm not sure about public integration, but for internal integration, you give access to the application, to the integration, to your Notion docs, to your workspace, whatever it is, to the page, the database, the workspace, what level, whatever level you give it access to. So it's not trivial to just create a new integration and that's it. Because now if you create a new, let's say you leak the secret, you're like, crap. Okay, well, this integration shot to heck. You have to go and remove that integration from access to all you, whatever Notion docs you gave it access to, and then you have to either you yourself or ask whoever was using your integration to like add a new integration. But at least in for internal integrations, I would have to go through and go back, remove the old one, add the new one. So it just feels, especially for internal integrations, it feels super sketch. I'm not sure how public integrations exactly work, but for internal integration, it's really bad. I can't just delete this integration. Let's see. Can I do it now? Yes. Okay. At least I can delete the integration now. So at least I can nuke it. But I have to, if I have to be a good developer and know that I accidentally leaked the secret and I gotta nuke it. Otherwise, anyone that has access to the secret will be able to in theory try to query for information. Luckily, you can't just, I don't think you can just blanket query stuff, but yeah, not good. I guess I need to go onto their forums and request that you can re-roll a secret. And it's always good practice anyway that you should be re-rolling secrets. I know we don't always practice that, but the principle of re-rolling secrets is always good just in case. Add your API. Add your API key. Add your apps. Add your integrations. Integrate. I keep on adding an R there. Integration token to token. And which version of the Notion API let's look at the documentation for the Notion API versioning. Current if not provided. So if it's not provided, it will default to. So right now, if you don't provide the Notion API version, it's going to default to that date in the code. Cool. All right, let's commit this new these new changes that I have yet to save. Good stuff. And more detailed instructions. Git push. And let's release the docs. So mix hex docs publish docs. Oh, forgot. Gotta put in my awesome password. And now we have better docs. Woo! I can dig it. All right. Now we've updated the documentation. We have the package out in the wild. One thing we didn't do that we can try to do is see if it actually works. The one thing we haven't tested is we've tested it in packages, but have we tried to add the Notion package? Have we tried to add the package to some project and actually use it? That's a whole other question. So I wish there was like an online tool we could use that lets us like just really quickly build an Elixir project online only. Elixir. So how do we just, I know there's a command to do this to generate just a general Elixir project. But I forget the command. Mix new. Okay. So let's try creating a test project. And see how that goes. Or do I already have like a little sandbox project? I'll just call it so mix new project. I'll call it Elixir Sandbox because and sometimes you just need a little project to play around with stuff. So application name, yeah. So I gotta do underscores. So let's go into our Elixir Sandbox project. And we are going to open up code in here. Let's minimize this one. So let's follow our own guide and see if this is going to work. The moment of truth. So it looks like it grabbed it successfully grabbed it. I'm like clicking all the wrong things here. And then right here, it says to grab the Notion stuff. This Elixir project does not have a config folder. So this is supposed to be grabbing from the environment variables. I'm not even sure what we have to do in order for this to grab like the correct configuration for a project. I wonder if we have to include the... Yeah, so this is angry because it's trying to do this. Let's see if this guide will say anything about that. I've only ever worked with library and other stuff. How do we do it in this project, actually? Use mix config. Is that what we're missing here? Looks like it. Looks like that's what we were missing. Use mix config. Okay. We need to load. So I need to load the environment variables into here. Actually, let's do this. Let's remove that one. And we need to load our secret into there. I'm going to use Doppler to do this. So I need to tell it which environment that I want to use. So Doppler environments. Oh, maybe I just do Doppler setup. Doppler setup. And I want to use the Thin Notion API. We're going to use dev. There. Now, my CLI tool knows about which environment variable I want to run. So now we do Doppler run. And we're going to do ix-s and load up mix. And we should have access to the Thin Notion API. And I should be able to request some information about space. So my Thin Notion API already has access to this Thin Notion workspace. So this is a page, not a database. Let me minimize this. Thin Notion pages, and we want to retrieve a page, the ID, and it worked. So our little package that is hosted on Hex, we followed the guide. So that worked. We loaded in the environment variable for the version. Let's do this. Let's run it again. Everything should still work fine. Fingers crossed. It works. Now let's break it. We don't, sometimes when things just work straight off the bat, we don't trust our own code. And so we need to break it. So let's do this. So we're actually going to hard code the secret to be an empty. And let's run it again. And let's do not that. Gotta copy and paste this command again. Yep. It works. Unauthorized, and that's because it's an empty string. Yes. So let me go ahead and get out of this project, close this little sandbox project. So we've just successfully verified that if we follow the instructions that are outlined here, we copy and paste that into our deps. We created a config. In our config, we added this and with our environment variables. And we were able to do a request for our information. It worked. At first, I didn't believe it was going to work, but it actually did. We actually successfully deployed this project. We have solid documentation now updated so people know how to use it. And it is downhill from here, that's for sure, because all we have to do now is continue iterating on this and adding the additional features. So what needs to happen next is to add the blocks and user objects in search. So all of this right here is the next things we need to do. We need to add the API endpoints, create the modules for those specifically, and implement the functions for those to do those things, and just deploy it. So now we can continue. Now that it's hosted on Hex, we can just continue deploying this every single time. Every single time we finish a module, or maybe even we finish a function, at the end of the day, we can just deploy it, because right now it is currently in develop that we're calling out. But that's really cool. And I just want to revisit the fact that I was able to just deploy the documentation and not the code. That's amazing. I love that. I can deploy the updated documentation, all the information, and none of the code, because the code's the same. I just want to go in and update all the documentation for this to make it a lot more easier for people to use, because when we first deployed this, we had basically this information, how to install it, not how to use it. Just how to install it. So that is awesome. And with that, I feel like that is a good end to the hour block that we were focusing on. And I met my goal, and hopefully you've learned something new. I definitely enjoyed that. It was like smooth running. We were just kind of, we were just tapping out stuff. We weren't doing anything super heavy. And we've also went and installed it and verified that the steps are solid for our instructions. So thumbs up to that. Love it. So I will see you next time on the next stream. So we've already have all the documentation down. We have it deployed. So we're going to get back to doing the coding and implementing the next chunk of features, the next module that we need to do. And hopefully I'll see you again. If not, if I don't see you, hopefully you are watching one of these videos and got some good quality content out of it. If you got any questions, comments, anything like that, make sure that you can always reach out to me at Talk to Me Gooseman on Twitter, on Twitch, and on YouTube. So I hope you have a good 3-day weekend, everyone. And I will catch you next time. See ya.